So Caroline Lucas, Green MP for Brighton Pavilion, thank you for joining us here in Westminster. First of all, dividend taxes. The finance bill is going through Parliament and there's an amendment on dividend taxes. Can you just tell us why you're supporting that amendment?
I've been supporting that amendment because it has big implications for small businesses. Now, we know that Brighton and Hove has a very large number of small and micro businesses, and so negative changes for that area is going to hit Brighton and Hove harder than most places. So what I want to do is to try to make sure the government thinks again about this and doesn't penalise some of our smallest, most vulnerable businesses.
Great. And in the debate so far on this amendment, the Minister has suggested that they don't have enough data about micro businesses to actually assess the impact of their decisions. What do you think about this? It seems quite similar to comments they make around the environment and so on. We've got no data, Gov.
Well, it says a lot, doesn't it, about the government? First of all, if they don't have the data, then please go and get it. And I think that speaks to the fact that, unfortunately, successive governments really haven't paid enough attention to small and micro businesses, in spite of the fact that they are real generators of wealth and jobs in the country. So in itself, I think that's quite a damning response. But secondly, if they don't have the data, there's plenty of other people that do. And you'll remember, Jason, that we went and saw the Minister and put quite a lot of important data in front of him, and he promised to go away and look at it. And so I am particularly concerned about lower earning owner-directors of these incorporated micro-businesses who really will face difficulties, particularly in the next coming tax year.
So recently the Chancellor, perhaps the outgoing Chancellor, mentioned further corporation tax cuts were on the horizon. It seems to me that they're funding these kinds of cuts by just hiking other taxes like dividend taxes. Is that your impression as well?
That sadly is entirely my impression, and we've got, as you say, a Chancellor at the minute at least who seems to be seeing the future of this country as some kind of tax haven, which is not the kind of vision that I think many of us share. And if there is money to be spent in terms of, in a sense, reducing corporation tax still further, then let's think about that a bit more carefully, and let's make sure that we are not penalising some of the most important businesses when it comes to wealth and jobs, and that is the small businesses, the micro businesses.
So we are inevitably facing some kind of Brexit-related legislative agenda in the coming years. Do you think there's going to be time for any positive change in legislation, or are we just going to be bogged down on a sort of Brexit fest in Parliament? What hope do you hold?
Well, I think there's a very real risk that Brexit will bog everybody down for years to come. If I'm trying to be hopeful about it, as I always do, then perhaps there are some opportunities as well. Maybe there are some opportunities to be able to put small and micro businesses front and centre of a new industrial strategy for the country.
Yeah.
Certainly if we're withdrawing from the EU, we're going to need that industrial strategy. And so the extent to which we can be pushing at this moment for small and micro businesses to be part of that and front and centre of it, perhaps that's something that we can unify around and make sure it's top of the agenda.
It's good. I like being positive and hopeful. We have to be.
We have to be.
So finally, what's your take on the UK politics at the moment? I know that's a big question, but how for the ordinary working person and the business owner, how do they engage at the moment and do something that they feel is positive?
Well, as you intimate, it's changing hour by hour. So by the time this video goes up on the website, we may have, completely new leaders and prime ministers and who knows what. I think on one level it is important that we get stability in the country as soon as possible, because we know that insecurity and uncertainty is bad for investment. So to that extent, having some clarity about the way forward is important. Some of the battles I'm fighting are about trying to oversee what kind of Brexit that we have, because we don't know what Brexit is going to look like, which leads to more uncertainty. Is it still being a member of the European Economic Area, which would still allow us full membership of the single market, or is it the rather more drastic, flying off into the seas alone model? So what I want to try and see is as much focus as possible on ensuring that we keep our environmental legislation, our workers' rights legislation, our freedom of movement, and indeed access to the single market. But that's a battle still to be had.
Great. And would ordinary people be best engaged in writing to their MPs, in joining a party? What's kind of a positive step they could take right now to feel more part of what's being happening rather than being a spectator?
Well, I suppose the good thing is that there is a kind of a burgeoning of all kinds of different movements. So for people who were, passionately wanting to stay in the European Union, the Remain campaign, Stronger In, is now morphing into a campaign that will be trying to ensure that the terms of Brexit are as positive as possible.
Okay.
So people could get involved in that. They can join that up. They can join that. Of course, you won't be surprised if I say that I would love people to join political parties, and the Green Party foremost among those. But there feels to be there's a real kind of flourishing of different movements right now. Compass is another organisation that's trying to organise more cross-party cooperation on this issue. So I think one positive thing out of the whole miserable referendum experience was that parties did get used to working together more closely, and I think that's got to be a good thing for the future.
Great. Caroline Lucas, thank you very much.
Thank you.